Commander Calthex adjusted his ocular sensors for the third time in as many minutes, convinced they were malfunctioning. The human female sitting across from him in the interrogation pod simply could not be displaying such casual indifference. Not when faced with the full majesty of the hegemony's finest military officer. "State your designation again, creature," Calthex demanded, his voice modulator adding the appropriate intimidating bass frequencies that had made lesser species evacuate their bowels in terror. The human, a compact being with dark hair, pulled back in what his cultural databases identified as a ponytail, looked up from examining her fingernails. "Captain Riley Martinez, United Earth Defense Corps, serial number 7749 Delta Kilo. And before you ask again, no, I won't be providing tactical information, troop movements, or the recipe for my grandmother's enchiladas." Calthex's mandibles clicked in confusion. Enchiladas? His translation matrix must be corrupted. "You jest in the face of interrogation? Do you not comprehend your situation, human?" Riley leaned back in the containment chair, which was designed to psychologically crush the will of prisoners through its imposing metal framework and energy restraints. She appeared to be using it as a recliner. "Oh, I get it. Big scary alien with the fancy uniform wants to play 20 questions. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Question is, do you actually have a plan here? Or are we just going to stare at each other until one of us gets bored?" The commander's secondary stomachs churned with something he had never experienced before. In his 47 years of military service, spanning 12 different star systems and countless interrogations of enemy combatants, he had never encountered a prisoner who treated the entire process like an inconvenience at a grocery store. "Perhaps you require a demonstration of our capabilities," Calthex said, activating the chamber's psychological pressure systems. The walls began to emit a low-frequency hum designed to trigger primal fear responses in most sentient species. Riley yawned. Actually yawned. "Oh good, white noise. I haven't slept properly since your people blew up our outpost. Thanks for the ambience." "You." Calthex struggled to process this response. "You are not experiencing terror." "Terror?" Riley laughed, a sound that somehow managed to be both musical and mocking. "Buddy, you want to see terror? Try explaining to my ex-wife why I forgot our anniversary 3 years running. Try sitting through a performance review with Lieutenant Colonel Peterson when he's had too much coffee. Try assembling IKEA furniture without the little Allen wrench." She gestured around the intimidating chamber. This is Tuesday." The commander's data pad chimed with an incoming message from his superior, Admiral Kessnorth. The text glowed with typical hegemony efficiency. Status report. Has the human provided intelligence? Calthex looked at Riley, who was now humming what sounded like an ancient Earth ballad while examining the energy restraints with professional interest. He sent back. "Interrogation, proceeding as expected. I can see those glowing letters, you know," Riley said conversationally. "Your boss checking up on you? Tell them I said hi. Oh, and that their choice in interior decorating is really something. Very dystopian space, empire meets industrial chic. I'm getting definite trying too hard to be scary vibes." Calthex's optical stalks twitched involuntarily. "How did you?" The text is encrypted in standard hegemony battle code. "Honey, I have been decoding alien transmissions since I was 12 and hacked into the deep space monitoring station near my hometown. Your unbreakable encryption is basically alphabet soup with delusions of grandeur." Riley stretched as much as the restraints allowed. "Plus, body language is universal. The way your eye stalks drooped when that message came in, either bad news from home or your boss is breathing down your neck. Since I'm guessing family communication isn't high priority during active military operations, the commander found himself leaning forward despite his better judgment. "You. Study our communications. Study, intercept, decode, occasionally improve upon. Your quantum encryption protocols have some interesting vulnerabilities, by the way. Nothing personal, just professional curiosity." Riley's expression became almost sympathetic. "Look, I get it. You're supposed to break me down, extract valuable intel, probably make an example out of the scary human. But here's the thing. I volunteered for this assignment, knowing full well it was a one-way ticket. My ship was outgunned 50 to 1. We were never getting out of that fight alive. Calthex felt his certainty beginning to crack like ice under pressure. Then why did you engage? Your tactical analysis must have shown the futility of resistance. Because, Riley said, her voice carrying a weight that seemed to fill the entire chamber. Sometimes the point isn't winning. Sometimes the point is making sure the other guy knows he was in a fight. The interrogation chamber fell silent, except for the persistent hum of the psychological intimidation systems. Calthex realized he was witnessing something his military training had never prepared him for. A prisoner who had already accepted death and found it wanting. Your species, he said slowly, they're all like this. Riley's grin was sharp enough to cut through the chamber's armored plating. Oh, Commander, you have no idea. Before Calthex could respond, the chamber's alert systems activated. Emergency lights bathed everything in pulsing red while automated voices announced, hull breach detected, unknown vessels approaching, all personnel to battle stations. Riley's eyebrows rose. That was faster than expected. What was faster? The commander was already accessing his tactical displays, watching in growing horror as sensor readings showed impossible readings. 3 small craft, clearly human in design, were somehow moving through space in ways that violated every known law of physics. The cavalry, Riley said cheerfully. See, the thing about us humans? We don't really go in for the whole leaving our people behind thing. Bit of a character flaw, really. Terrible for strategic thinking. The tactical display showed the human vessels performing maneuvers that should have reduced their crews to paste against the bulkheads. They were accelerating at forces that would liquefy most known organic life forms, turning in vectors that defied gravitational physics. And somehow their weapons were cutting through hegemony shields like they were made of paper. Impossible qu'Aldex whispered. No biological entity can survive those acceleration forces. You are right, Riley agreed. No sane biological entity would try. Lucky for you, sanity was never really our strong suit. The ship shuddered under weapons fire that registered energies beyond the commander's comprehension. His tactical officer's voice crackled through the comm system. Sir, the human vessels, they are not following any recognizable attack patterns. They are making up new ones as they go. Improvisation, Riley said proudly. Another one of our charming quirks. We are really bad at doing things the way they are supposed to be done. More alerts cascaded across Calthex's displays. The human ships were somehow interfacing with hegemony systems, turning their own weapons against them. Security teams were reporting that their automated defenses were being reprogrammed in real time to target hegemony personnel. How are they accomplishing this? The commander's voice carried a note of something he had never allowed himself to feel before. Panic. Well, Riley said, examining her fingernails again with infuriating calm. Turns out when you have spent your entire evolutionary history trying to outsmart predators, natural disasters, and each other, you get pretty good at thinking outside the box. Or in this case, outside the nice, orderly tactical doctrine you have been using for the past few centuries. The ship's gravity systems fluctuated, causing Calthex to grip his command console for stability. Through the chamber's observation window, he could see crew members floating helplessly as the artificial gravity switched on and off in seemingly random patterns. They are treating this like a game, he realized with growing horror. Bingo! Riley clapped her hands together, the sound sharp in the chaos-filled chamber. See, that's the thing you folks never understood about humans. When everything goes to hell, when the odds are impossible, when any reasonable species would surrender. She leaned forward as much as the restraints allowed, her eyes bright with something that might have been madness or might have been joy. We start having fun. The lights flickered and died, plunging the chamber into emergency illumination. In the red-tinted darkness, Riley's smile was absolutely terrifying. So, Commander, she said conversationally as explosions echoed through the ship's hull, want to hear about my grandmother's enchiladas? Because we might be here a while, and I have got stories that will curl your eye stalks. Calthex stared at the human female who sat calmly in her restraints while his flagship was being torn apart by forces he couldn't understand, using tactics that shouldn't exist by a species that apparently treated interstellar warfare like an elaborate practical joke. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Calthex began to understand what fear actually felt like. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice wondered if perhaps the hegemony had made a terrible mistake. In choosing humanity as their enemy, the voice was right. The emergency lighting cast dancing shadows across Riley's face as another explosion rocked the hegemony flagship. Calthex watched his prisoner with growing fascination and dread. She was actually enjoying this. You know what the funny thing is? Riley said, raising her voice slightly to be heard over the sound of twisting metal and distant screams. Your people spent months studying our military tactics, our weapons, our ship designs. Real thorough job. Gold star for effort. A section of the ceiling collapsed 20 meters away, sparks showering down like metallic rain. Calthex's communication array crackled with panicked reports from across the ship. What you didn't study, Riley continued, was our entertainment industry. You're what? The commander's translator struggled with the concept. Movies, Commander. Video games. Comic books. We have been imagining scenarios like this for centuries. Every possible way to break into a heavily fortified ship, disable its systems, and rescue the captured hero. Riley's grin widened. My rescue team? They have probably seen every space battle movie ever made. This isn't military doctrine to them. This is Tuesday night at the theater. The ship's artificial intelligence spoke in clipped, urgent tones. Commander Calthex, human boarding parties have breached decks 7 through 12. They appear to be singing. Calthex's mandibles clicked in confusion. Riley nodded approvingly. Classic psychological warfare. Nothing says we are not taking this seriously like humming show tunes while you are dismantling someone's defenses. Through the communication system, faint sounds of human voices could be heard echoing through the ship's corridors. They were indeed singing something about breaking free and we are the champions. The hegemony crew, trained for conventional warfare, were completely unprepared for enemies who treated combat like karaoke night. Sir, the tactical officer's voice bordered on hysteria. The humans have somehow convinced our automated medical bay to start treating their wounded. Our own ship is providing medical aid to enemy combatants. They hacked our medical systems. Calthex demanded. No, sir, they asked politely. Use the emergency medical protocols. Our AI couldn't distinguish between friend and foe when presented with injured personnel requesting aid. Riley chuckled. Courtesy, another one of our weird habits. We say please and thank you even when we are in the middle of blowing things up. The commander's data pad lit up with increasingly frantic reports. Human boarding parties were moving through his ship like they owned it, but they weren't following any logical attack pattern. Instead of heading for critical systems or the bridge, they seemed to be wandering around, occasionally stopping to help injured hegemony crew members or offer directions to lost personnel. They are not behaving like invaders, Calthex muttered, more to himself than to Riley. That's because we are not invaders, she replied matter-of-factly. We are customers with complaints. There's a difference. Customers, you attacked our outpost, killed our people, took me prisoner. From our perspective, you guys have provided really terrible customer service. Riley shrugged as much as the restraints allowed. So we are here to speak to the manager. Before Calthex could process this bizarre analogy, the interrogation chamber's doors exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, 3 figures emerged wearing what looked like jury-rigged spacesuits covered in duct tape, inspirational stickers, and what appeared to be hand-drawn smiley faces. Riley, the lead figure, pulled off their helmet, revealing a young woman with bright purple hair and an enormous grin. You missed movie night. We watched that old one about the prison break on the asteroid. Pretty sure we are doing it better than they did. Hey, Zoe, Riley said casually, as if she was greeting a friend at a coffee shop rather than in the middle of a rescue operation. How's the ship? Oh, it's gorgeous. Really nice architecture. Very imposing. The crew seems lovely, if a bit uptight. The purple-haired woman turned to Calthex with genuine politeness. Hi there. I'm Sergeant Zoe Park. Thanks for keeping our captain safe. Mind if we borrow her back? Calthex stared at the human who had just thanked him for imprisoning her commanding officer. His understanding of reality felt increasingly unstable. The restraints? Asked the second rescuer, a tall man with kind eyes and arms covered in colorful tattoos. Standard electromagnetic locks, Riley replied. Pretty sophisticated, actually. Nice work, Commander. The tattooed man nodded approvingly and produced what looked like a modified gaming controller. Within seconds, the restraints deactivated. There we go. Fixed. You hacked our security systems with a toy. Calthex's voice reached a pitch his species had previously thought impossible. It's not a toy, the man said, looking mildly offended. It's a highly modified quantum processing unit disguised as a gaming controller. I built it myself. He extended a hand toward the commander. Tech specialist Marcus Wong. Pleasure to meet you. Calthex found himself automatically reaching out to shake the offered hand before stopping himself. You are in the middle of an armed rescue operation. Well, yeah, Marcus said reasonably. But that doesn't mean we can't be polite about it. The third rescuer, a compact woman with silver hair and amused eyes, was scanning the chamber with a device that beeped cheerfully. Environmental readings are good. Artificial gravity is stable. Air quality is excellent. You folks run a tight ship. Thank you, Calthex said automatically, then caught himself. Wait, no. You are enemies. Invaders. Visitors, Riley corrected, standing up and stretching. Definitely visitors. We didn't ask to be here. Sergeant Park was examining the interrogation chamber with professional interest. This is really well designed. Psychological pressure systems, intimidation lighting, the whole 9 yards. Very thorough. Though I have to say, the color scheme is a bit aggressive. Have you considered warmer tones? Maybe some plants. Plants. Calthex felt his grip on sanity slipping further. They help with air quality and morale. Marcus added helpfully. We could send you some recommendations if you want. The ship's communication system crackled to life with Admiral Kessnorth's voice. All units. Report status immediately. Are the human invaders contained? Riley looked at Calthex expectantly. Want me to take that? Before the commander could respond, she had somehow accessed his communication panel. Hi there. This is Captain Martinez. I just wanted to say, your ship is absolutely beautiful. The engineering is really impressive. My team is having a wonderful time exploring it. There was a long pause before the Admiral's voice returned, considerably higher in pitch. Who is this? How did you access our secure channels? Oh, that's easy. Marcus called out from across the chamber. Your quantum encryption has a backdoor subroutine that activates when you use polite language protocols. We just asked nicely. The silver-haired woman looked up from her scanner. Also, your security AI really likes compliments. We told it what a good job it was doing, and it practically gave us administrative access. Calthex sank into his command chair, overwhelmed. You defeated our security by being nice to it? It's amazing what you can accomplish with basic courtesy, Zoe said brightly. Though we did have to promise to recommend your ship's designer for a commendation. Your AI is really proud of the work. Through the communication system, they could hear Admiral Kessnorth attempting to coordinate a response to the human incursion. However, every few minutes, his orders were interrupted by reports of humans helping to repair damaged systems, sharing snacks with hegemony crew members, or offering technical advice on improving ship efficiency. Sir, came one particularly confused report. The humans in engineering Bay 7 have improved our power coupling efficiency by 30%. They say it was just a minor adjustment. They also left cookies, added another voice. Chocolate chip. They're actually quite good. Riley turned to Calthex with an expression that might have been sympathetic. You know, Commander, you seem like decent people. Your military is efficient, your technology is impressive, and your ship design is genuinely beautiful. But you made one tiny mistake. What mistake? He asked weakly. You assumed that because we are different, we must be inferior. Riley's voice was gentle but firm. You studied our weapons and our tactics, but you never bothered to understand who we are. We are not conquerors, Commander. We are explorers. We are engineers. We are storytellers. We are the species that looked at the vast, empty, hostile universe and said, hey, let's go make friends. Marcus held up his modified controller. When we saw your encryption, we didn't think, how do we break this? We thought, wow, this is clever. How can we make it better? Zoe gestured around the chamber. When we saw your ship, we didn't think, how do we destroy this? We thought, this is amazing. Who built it? And can we shake their hand? The silver-haired woman smiled at Calthex. I'm Dr. Lisa Santos, by the way, xenobiology specialist. I have been studying your species' biological markers, and I have to say, your evolutionary development is fascinating. I'd love to compare notes with your science team sometime. Admiral Kessnorth's image stabilized long enough for him to speak clearly. You were discussing technological cooperation with enemy assets during wartime. This is treason. Is it still wartime? Riley asked reasonably. Because honestly, Admiral, I'm looking around at our people working together, sharing knowledge and fixing problems, and this doesn't feel like war to me. This feels like the beginning of something much more interesting. The communication panel lit up with another incoming call. This time, it was from the hegemony's highest command authority, Supreme Admiral Vorth Prime, leader of the entire military fleet. Admiral Kessnorth. The Supreme Admiral's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. I am receiving reports from across the fleet of unprecedented cooperation between our forces and human personnel. Explain this situation immediately. Admiral Kessnorth looked like he was about to have what humans would call a nervous breakdown. Sir, the situation has become complex. Complex how? Riley stepped forward again. If I may, Supreme Admiral, Captain Riley Martinez, representing the human contingent aboard this vessel. We seem to have accidentally started the galaxy's first interspecies technical cooperation initiative. There was a long pause before the Supreme Admiral responded. Accidentally? Well, we came here to rescue our captain, Zoe explained. But once we got here, we started talking to people, and it turns out you folks have some really interesting challenges we could help with. And you have solutions to some problems we have been working on for years. For instance, Marcus added, your quantum computing systems are about 50 years ahead of ours, but our adaptive programming could make them even more efficient. Meanwhile, our material science could help with some structural issues your long-range ships have been experiencing. Dr. Santos looked up from her ongoing conversation with the ship's AI. Not to mention the biological compatibility studies. If our species are going to be sharing space, we should probably understand each other's basic physiological needs. Supreme Admiral Vorth Prime was silent for nearly a minute before speaking again. Are you suggesting that this military engagement has evolved into a diplomatic contact scenario? More like a really productive conference, Riley said with a grin. With slightly more explosions than usual, but the end result is the same. Calthex felt the weight of history settling around him. This moment, this impossible conversation between species who had been shooting at each other hours ago, was going to change everything. Supreme Admiral, he said quietly, I believe we may have stumbled upon something unprecedented. The humans, they are not what we expected. Elaborate, Commander. They do not seek to conquer or destroy, sir. They seek to understand and improve. They have turned our interrogation chamber into a research symposium, our security systems into cooperation protocols, and our military engagement into a technological exchange program. Riley smiled at him warmly. We are just being ourselves, Commander. This is what humans do when we meet new people, even people who were shooting at you. Supreme Admiral Vorth Prime asked, especially people who were shooting at us. Zoe replied cheerfully. Means you have got good weapons technology we might want to learn about. The Supreme Admiral was quiet for another long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried a tone Calthex had never heard from his Supreme Commander before. Curiosity. Captain Martinez, are you suggesting that your species would be interested in formal technological and cultural exchange agreements? Well, Riley said, we'd have to talk to our people back home, but speaking personally, You have got amazing ships, fascinating technology, and really excellent coffee. Plus, your AI wants to start a book club. How could we say no to that? The interrogation chamber fell silent, except for the sound of the ship's systems humming efficiently, now running at optimal capacity thanks to human improvements. Finally, Supreme Admiral Vorth Prime spoke again. Commander Calthex, you are to escort the human delegation to my flagship. It appears we have a great deal to discuss. Delegation. Admiral Kess North sputtered. Sir, they are enemy combatants. Admiral. The Supreme Admiral's voice carried gentle reproof. When was the last time enemy combatants improved our fleet efficiency by 30% and offered to share cookie recipes? Riley laughed, the sound bright and joyful in the chamber. Supreme Admiral, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. As they prepare to transfer to the flagship, Calthex realized that his initial question had been answered in the most unexpected way possible. He had asked why humans showed no fear, and now he understood. They showed no fear because they had already seen past the conflict to the friendship that could exist on the other side. The war was indeed over, and everybody had definitely won.